See this pretty stitch right here? I'm calling this the inspired link stitch. It's taken from knit stitches as if you were using knitting needles, and I try to transfer it to the loom. So it's not exactly like how it may look if you were to knit it. That's why I'm calling it the inspired link stitch. It's really pretty. I'm going to show you how to do it, but to get this effect you see here, which you may not see when we're actually working it, is after you're all done, you want to give it a little stretch, and this will actually let the stitch take a little more shape. And that's because I'm doing a flat knit, which you'll see when I show you the stitch. But again, you'll get this full effect after you finish the stitch, and then you give it a little stretch of it, it will take this shape here. But on the loom, it may look a little tighter and a little more wonky. So here it is. The first part of doing the stitch is you want to cast on an odd number of stitches, and I actually counted the first peg as one of my stitches. So in this sample I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches casted on, like I said, counting the first peg. You want to work this over an odd number of stitches. It is recommended in terms of doing it as a knit if you were knitting using knitting needles. So on the loom, I decided to keep it the same by doing, again, odd number of stitches. Now, I've already done a cast on row. As you can see, I've done samples of some other stitches down below. And so what I did was just a plain E-wrap knit. What I would recommend if you actually want to see this stitch is to do a few rows of E-wrap knit before you begin. That way, you'll be able to see the definition of this stitch a little easier. As you can see, this was some E-wrap knit, and right here is the stitch we're going to do, which I thought was really kind of cool. Kind of gives you, almost reminds you of like a rib stitch when you have the raised part, but it just looks a little cooler. So in order to do this, let me grab my yarn here. It's worked over 2 rows that you're just going to keep repeating the process over and over again, as many times as you want. So in the first row of this stitch, we're going to turn around and we're going to do, excuse me, we're going to purl one, which if you remember, you're going to purl one, and then you're going to move the yarn behind the next peg like we're slipping it. We're not going to do anything to this peg right now. You're going to move it behind and then bring it back up in front and purl the next one. We're basically slipping that stitch, and we're going to the next one and we're going to purl that again. And then again, you're going to slip the next one and bring it back to the front to do the one after that. Again, slip behind the other one to ignore it, bring it back in front for the next. And purl it. Slip behind the next again. Purl it. Now when I say slip behind the next, it's basically you're taking the working yarn to the back. So you're slipping the stitch with the working yarn in the back, which means behind the peg. If it had said, done working yarn in front, I would have taken this loop off and put the yarn in front. So we're basically slipping it with the working yarn in the back. That's kind of what it's called. Now with this last peg, this is what's actually a little trickier. We need to slip this one, again, with the working yarn in the back, so we're just going to lay it behind it, like that. And this next row, we're actually going to knit, and I'm actually going to knit the last peg. Normally we kind of start with the next one, but we're going to knit. And what I'm choosing to do, and which I think I would recommend, is doing the flat knit, which is where you basically lay your working yarn above the stitch you're going to do, and you just simply knit over. Keep in mind of how tight don't hold it really tight, like don't stretch it really tight. Make sure there's a little bit of give, because otherwise when you do the next row again, it's going to make it a little harder to do. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm laying it in front of my yarn, on top of my yarn, and knitting over. Not holding that working yarn tight, like I said, it's just gently laying over top of it, because if I hold it tight, it's going to make it really tight for the next row. So you want it to lay on top of the stitch, and again, give it a little bit of slack. Oops. Okay. So that is the 2 rows, and that's all you would repeat doing for this stitch. Again, remember, when you're going to do it again, because we did that knit row, you're going to the next peg over, you're going to purl this one, you're going to purl this one like you normally do. Get back over here. Lift up and over. Put it behind, do the working yarn behind. Remember, so you put the working yarn behind it. It's working yarn behind to slip that next stitch, and then bring it back in front to do the next one. And again, if it looks a little tight, you can use your hook to just kind of ease it off of the peg. Okay. Slip the next one with the working yarn on the back of the peg, and bring it back in front again. And using your hook if you need to, because when you do the flat knit stitch, it does sometimes make the loop a little harder to get off, but again, you can just use your tool to help you. And keep in mind, the only reason it's struggling me that much is because of the angle I'm at. So we're going to lift it up and over. Okay, remember, working yarn behind the next peg. Purl the next. Really don't know why it's giving me this much problems. I mean, you can do E-wrap knit, but I would still recommend doing the flat knit. I might have just held the yarn a little too tight. Okay, slip, go the next. Sometimes it's even better to use your fingers. And remember, the last peg, you're still going to slip the working yarn behind the peg, and then bring it back around the front and do your flat knit again. And that's how you work the Inspire link stitch on a loom.